unfortunately, I'm sadly facing a divorce after 30 plus years of marriage.
Oh my!
And
That's terrible.
we're both Christians. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't wish it upon anybody. We're both Christians and followers of Christ. You know, that's hard to say given what's happened, but I know that to be true to whatever degree it is. I've been praying in full knowledge and faith that God can do anything if it's in His will, but also human free will has a part. And I just, in counsel with other believers from church and my fellowship group, I've been told a couple times that just in looking forward to provide me probably comfort and hope, that I could look to the parable of the prodigal son as some kind of a hope for reconciliation. But I really wonder if that's true, and I don't want to twist and manipulate or misinterpret Scripture. I just want your take on that.
Well, let me ask you a few questions first. I'm assuming you're not the one seeking the divorce. Is that correct?
Oh, no, that's correct.
And I'm assuming there's been no grounds for the divorce?
No.
So, you know, before we get to the prodigal son point, how is the church approaching your wife about her decision in this matter?
She's separated from that communication at this point in time. It's only been about a week or so. They definitely would approve of this and would communicate that to her in such fashion.
Does she are there Christian women that know her who can approach her and try to correct her in her choices?
Yes, I'm hoping that that's the case. Unfortunately, there's some other people in her life that would also profess to be Christians that have gone through divorces, some of them with solid biblical grounds and some that probably don't. And I just think she may have found an echo chamber for what she was feeling. And
I went through the same thing. And that situation is very familiar. As far as the story of the prodigal, first of all, I grieve for you because I've been through divorce. It's extremely, extremely painful. It is probably the most, it's probably the most evil, nonviolent act that a person can commit is to divorce a faithful spouse. It's certainly a violation of covenant, a violation of vows. It's perjury, therefore. It is also theft of 30-something years of your life. If you have children, it's damaging to them. I mean, it's simply as evil an act as a normal civilized person would ever commit. And the only reason civilized people will do it is because civilization has lost track of what marriage is. And the church, of course, needs to stand strong in reaffirming what it is. The prodigal son story is obviously the story of a reconciliation between two family members who were alienated, the father and the son. But insofar as it goes that far, it only is an illustration of a case of reconciliation, of which, of course, there's many cases of reconciliation historically and even in the Bible and even in the experience of people we know. But it's not a story about, it's not a story guaranteeing anything like that. I mean, it's not talking. First of all, it's talking about a man being reconciled to God, essentially. But on the other hand, of course, as people can be reconciled to God, they can be reconciled to their partners or others. But it's not a story that guarantees or that predicts that a person would be reconciled to God. It's simply saying that if they return, that God receives them back. And in that sense, I don't know that it's a particular irrelevant, comforting story to a person going what you're going through. Not that I wish to take away any small comfort that you might already have. The truth is that people, for some reason, sin who call themselves Christians and damage other people very much. You can certainly minimize the damage that you suffer simply by drawing nearer to God. I mean, certainly in our society, godly men who've been divorced wrongfully by their wives and godly women who've been wrongfully divorced by their husbands are extremely commonplace. You know, it doesn't seem like it is until it happens to you. And when it does, you think, can anyone else have survived this? I mean, this is so painful. How can anyone survive this? And can it really be that probably 25% of the men in the church, or at least 15% of the men in the church have had to go through this just like me? It really it really softens your heart toward other people in some ways. The main thing is that in your suffering, you want to remain unbittered. You don't want you become bitter against your wife, because if God does bring her back, you want to be able, like the prodigal son's father, to welcome her back joyfully.
Right.
But on the other hand, apart from even your own avoidance of bitterness, it'll probably soften your heart toward others who've been through that, because you've probably known in the past many who've been through divorce and probably pitied them, but had no idea until you go through it yourself how terribly wrenching it is. I'm very sorry to hear about your situation, and I wouldn't necessarily see the prodigal son story as directly relevant to the situation, but I would say that the faithfulness of God to those who trust in him is a relevant thought to bear in mind through it all.
Sure.